everybody, welcome back to GR Research. You're here with me again, Danny Ritchie, and where we always do something interesting, upgrades, kits, servo, woofers, you name it. We've had some really good ones recently, and today's no exception. We're going to talk about some really high-end speaker cables. Also, if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, do so. Go down and click the subscribe button and the little bell notification button so you'll be notified when new videos hit. Cables, that's always one of those controversial topics. We've made our own cables here at GR Research for a long time, mostly just for us, but we had customers always asking us for cables, so we started making some of our own cables and hand braiding a bunch of cables from our internal wiring, and we made some really good cables. But we've been testing and listening to some new wire, some new cable that I've ordered that was really good, and I just had to order a whole big bunch of it. I've got spools of this stuff and offer it to you guys. And we first started putting some of it together and realized there's just so much time involved in putting it together that we decided not to do the assembly work on it. We're not going to assemble this stuff. We're going to offer it just like we do all of our speaker kits. We're going to offer a DIY cable kit. Reason being, we figure if our customers can assemble and put together our kits, they can strip the end of a wire and terminate it. That's easy. There's nothing to it. It's just time consuming, and you'll see why in a minute. This is our new cable that we're doing. That's 24 strands per cable. We feed a polycotton rope through the center of it. We've got ESR shielding paper here at the tips on each end, and we terminate it, or you can terminate it with your choice of tube connectors, some really good quality spades or banana plugs. This stuff turns out really good, and I'm going to get right into the specifics, and we're going to go straight through this stuff and talk about it from beginning to end. First of all, the wire itself, the way we're selling this stuff is by the foot. And this is the 24 strand. You can see here there's 12 conductors per each leg, and then we have the 18 stranded wire, which is a little smaller, and it is 8, of course, conductors per leg. 6 of them are white, 6 of them are in the clear jacket. Same with these. We've got 12 in the white jacket, 12 in the clear jacket. These are both super high purity copper, and they have a Teflon insulated coating on them. Now, you guys may look at this and think, hey, I've seen this before. Kimber Cable offers some of this exact cable. It looks just like that, and we've looked at their cable and the close-up photos, and yes, it does look exactly like it. I don't know if they're buying their bulk cable from the same supplier that we're getting it from. I don't know. What I do know for sure is this stuff sounds really good. So how do we sell this stuff? Well, first of all, for $39 you get your choice of spade connectors for the ends, tube connectors for the ends, of course, which is our favorite, or banana plugs, whichever you want. So you get 8 total. You get 4 of one, 4 of the other, whatever you need for each end, depending on what you need for your amplifier end versus your speaker end. You get your choice of any of those connectors. You get the ESR shielding paper that goes on the end. We buy tons of this stuff by the row. And what this stuff is, it's called a radar absorbent material. It's basically a very aggressive shielding material that shields for RFI and EMI. And you can wrap this stuff around the cable and it will knock a lot of that stuff right out of it. But you have to be careful. If you overdo it with this stuff, it can have a bit of a negative effect. It starts getting down into the audio frequencies just a little bit in those upper ranges and will make things a little dark if you use too much of it. But if you use a little bit of it, it goes a long way to make the whole thing quieter. So we have figured out what is optimal. We send you a little package of 4 of these, and those are put on the ends right before it wires off, and that stuff works really well. So you get the ESR shielding paper in the kit. You get all of your heat shrink all pre-cut, the big diameter stuff that goes right there where it wires, and you get the smaller diameter heat shrink tubing to go on it. Right there at the tube connector ends, the spades or the bananas. So that's what you get for $39. You get your choice of all that stuff. We also even throw in some really high quality solder, trying to make it as easy as possible. And then we sell the wire by the foot, and the wire that is the 24 stranded wire is $13.50 a foot. The 16 stranded wire you see here, we sell it for $9.50 a foot. I know fairly expensive cable, but when you compare it to the fully assembled cables you get from Kimber Cables, a 6-foot pair of this starts at about $700. I think an 8-foot pair is over $1,000. So selling it to you by the foot is lots cheaper. It's about a quarter of the price, and you just simply terminate it yourself. And with the tweaks that we're doing, we can do things that take it a little bit further, take it just to another level. One of the things we do is we feed a polycarbonate, actually it's a poly nylon rope that we feed through the center of this thing, and what that does is it separates the geometry a little bit. It's already a low inductance design. It even lowers that inductance a little more. It affects the cancellation of RFI and EMI a little bit better. It's a subtle tweak, but it helps and improves the sound when you feed that rope through there. We have a 7/16 rope we feed through the big boy, and a 1/4 inch diameter rope that we feed through the smaller one. And one of the first things I'm going to do is show you just how easy it is to feed that rope through there, and we're going to go step by step through an assembly process and show you how to put the ends on and try to make it as easy as possible. So next step, I'm going to set this thing up for feeding the rope through. Oh yeah, one other thing before I start feeding the rope through this thing, we got to unwind it a little bit. Makes it a little easier. What we're doing here is you just go through this thing and just spread it apart. Just start at the end and just start separating it, and just go around it in a circle, and you can just start opening that thing up. And what you want to do is you want to try and get all of one color to one side and all the other color to the other side, and you need about a good 6 or 8 inches of it. And you can, as you're moving them over, what you can do is grab one that's from the top here and kind of pull it all the way through and work its way back over so that it's the one at the bottom on that same side, and just keep going around it until you've got enough of it unwound to where you've got the links that you want. So get down here to the end, and you're just unbraiding it a little bit. So in the end here you have, I get it around there to where you guys can see it. You have 12 conductors on one side, all in white. You have 12 conductors on the other side, all in the clear jacket. And you want to go down each wire and just kind of straighten it out and undo a little bit of the curviness that's been put into it from the braiding, and get her good and straightened out. Do that on both sides, and then we're going to feed some rope through. And feeding the rope through is not that hard. I'm going to unwind some and get it ready to go, and we'll see how long it takes me to feed the rope through 12 feet of this stuff. Okay, here's the trick to feeding this stuff through. I usually grab an old Teflon tube that I've got. It's actually a little bit bigger than the rope. This is 7/16 rope, and just tape it to it so that it's on there well enough that you can pull on it. And then we're going to use that to feed it through. So what you'll do is you'll kind of open it up, get it separated a little bit, and start feeding it through. And then you just kind of work your way around it, just like you're feeding a new string through an old pair of sweatpants. You just keep pushing it through and pulling it, and before you know it, you'll have gone through the whole thing. It won't take very long. We'll see how long it takes. 12-footer, that can take a little longer than a lot of cables. I know some people look at this and think, how am I going to get this rope through there? Well, it's not that hard. You just have to strap it to something that's a little bit stiff, and then just start working it through. Now we've got about 4 feet of it done, so we're about 1/3 of the way there. They get a little harder as the further you go. And every now and then you're going to have to grab all of it and kind of push it all down. We're getting there. Pulling some rope through this thing. And yes, it is a little bit of a tweak. Makes a subtle difference. Some of the guys have noticed that have this type of cable, if they just go in and spread it a little and leave it just spread with nothing in the middle of it, that changes the sound characteristic a little bit and improves the sound. But it's easier if you have something through the core, and the rope tends to have a really good sound compared to other materials you could feed through the core. We used to feed a Teflon tube through the core, and that had a little bit of its own sound and characteristic. But the rope's a little more flexible and a little easier to work with. We're getting there. Got a couple of feet left. Normally I wouldn't video this whole operation. I just tell you guys how to do it. Show it to you after it's done, but got so many of you guys that just say, man, I don't know how to get this thing through there. How long is it going to take to feed this through? That's really hard to feed that thing through there. And I just want everybody to know it's not that hard. Pretty close. Whew. Got a lot of rope through that thing now. Almost to the end. Made it through. Once you make it through, you can just pull it and hold it there and work all the thickness out of it. It's like a big anaconda or something. Okay, and when you get to the end, what you want to do is you want to put a piece of tape, and that's me knocking a bunch of stuff over. You want to put a piece of tape around it so that it holds it, and you're going to cut it right in the middle of the tape. When you cut it right in the middle of the tape will keep it from fraying and going all over the place. And somewhere I have a bunch of scissors, and hopefully this isn't the dull pair, probably. We're going to go right through it there. Oh yeah, this is the dull pair. But it made it. Tape worked well. Another thing you can do to it, if you want, after you've cut it, you can take a little heat gun, put a little heat on it, and just kind of lightly melt the ends just a little bit, and that'll keep it from fraying and going all over the place. So pretty easy little tweak. All right, we got rope on each end. I'm going to go pull the other the tube off the end, trim that end, and then we're going to terminate some cables. Okay, this particular cable I'm putting together for Frederick, because Frederick says he's all thumbs and he can't put one together. I don't normally assemble these for everyone. They're easy to assemble, but they're time consuming. As you can see, there's 24 strands I've got to strip all the insulation off of per end. So times 4 ends, that's 96 wires. And if I'm putting tube connectors on the end, I have to strip about half of it at a time and then strip the other half. So 96 times 2. It takes a little bit of time, but it is easy. But Frederick didn't want to do it, so I said, it's your lucky day. I'm going to shoot a video on these, and you're going to get to see how to terminate it. So I'm going to use Frederick's cable here for the demo purposes. So lucky you, Frederick. For tube connectors, as you know, the tube connectors are hollow all the way to the tip, and this wire slides through all the way to the end. So in order to terminate it for these things, we have to strip quite a bit of the insulation off of the wire. And what we do is we take the first six and twist all those together really tightly in a nice even bundle. We get to the end, of course, we twist those together really well and make sure that the ends are the same length, and we'll solder those together a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll leave a little bit of it hanging out past the end of the tube connector. So there's about maybe 1/4 of an inch of it that's still showing. Then what we do is we take the second set of 6 and we flatten these out and we wrap them all the way around that first 6. So we're going all the way around that bundle and stripping all of these, and what we do is all 12 of them won't fit into the tube connector end. This will only hold up to 12 gauge, and this cable makes an 8 gauge cable. So what we do is when you get to the final 6 is you wrap it around the other wire at the end, and you go all the way around this part of the tube connector end. So you see the lower part there, or the back part that's a little smaller in diameter. You wrap it all the way around that, and then you solder the whole thing together. And you're going to have to get a pretty warm soldering iron, pretty hot. Get it good and hot, get some solder on it, and heat that thing up and solder the whole thing on it. Once the solder's dry, of course, you can slide your heat shrink upon it. Another thing we do, but before we solder it, the first 6 that you slide all the way to the tip, we'll crimp it. So we'll get one of the crimping tools and give it a good squeeze. Remember the little crimper there? It's got a little titty that sticks out on the end there that goes into that lower spot, and you want to do that on the back side. It's got a kind of a front side and a back side where it's got a little bit bigger of an opening on one side. You want to push that indentation there right into the back of it and give it a good squeeze. So you've got a good crimp connection, and then you're soldering all the rest of it on. But in this case, Frederick wanted spades on all his. Oops. So we're going to put spades on the ends. Also, I couldn't forget, I had to get out the flat earth globe for all the flat earthers out there that believe cables don't make a difference. They make a difference, guys. It makes a big difference, especially on a high-end system. And I'm not selling you snake oil. I'm selling you a really high-end cable for a really low price that you can put together yourself. You may have $170 to $200 or something in a pair, depending on how long you want it to be. And you put the ends on it together yourself, and you've got a really high-end cable. So let's get busy doing some stripping, and we're going to show you how to put the spade connectors on the ends. Okay, what we've done now is I have stripped all of the wiring. I've twisted it, and I mean basically you just keep them all together and just slowly start to twist. Don't try to aggressively twist it, just give it a light twist and then continue twisting a little tighter. And then you can trim the ends, and then of course the ends got soldered. And if you need to, if your solder is globbed or a little something on it there and it doesn't slide easily through the spades, you can always take, what I do is take a little Dremel tool and just lightly sand around it and sand off any of the heavy solder spots. Make sure it's nice and slick, nice and smooth, and then that spade connector will slide right down on it. And then once your spade connector's on it, you can give it a little squeeze and you can then just solder them right on. So nothing to it. Oh yeah, and slide the it's a little easier too if you slide the heat shrink on before sliding it on. Actually, I think this one will slide over the spade either way. So even with the spade on, you can go ahead and put it on, and then you can put your heat shrink on afterwards. So no problems there. So next step, getting these pushed on, squeezed, and solder the ends on. Then we'll do a little heat shrink on it, and then we'll show you the little ESR film and how we put that on, and put the big heat shrink on, and we'll have one end of it done. Oh yeah, before I get the heat shrink on the ends of these and seal it all up where you can't see it, I don't know if we can get a good close-up of it there, but it takes a pretty hot soldering iron to really get on these things and really heat it up and feed that solder down in there and kind of keep moving it across the surface, and you can really get that solder down deep into it and melt all of that solder on the wire onto the connector and get a good bonded connection. Next I'm going to show you the ESR film. This is the small piece of the ESR shielding film, and what I do is usually just peel off a little bit of masking tape and put it on it, as you can see, just on the tape there. And what we want to do on this stuff is we want to put it right here where it's just starting to V, and we want to start at a little bit of an angle and wrap it, kind of a spiral wrap around it, so that it's not coming back and on top of itself. Just wrapping it around it in a little bit of a spiral, like so. And that's all the ESR shielding this thing really needs. Next, we're going to slide all the heat shrinks on, heat everything up, and one end is done. Alright, final step. Slid the heat shrink on. Time to fire up the old heat gun and do some shrinking. Start with this one down here. Nothing really to heat shrink in it. Just going to go around it in a circle. You can kind of check your distances and make sure that when you start shrinking it that you're in a good spot. Kind of straddle that ESR film and just go around in a circle. This one takes the longest to heat. It's the big one. Nothing to it. Get to the ends. I usually like to make sure it's right at the end. You don't want to get it too close or too hot, it'll start turning it brown. That's all there is to it. We've done one end. We got 3 more to go. Just repeat just like the last ones. Before you know it, we'll have a set of cables. Like I said, it does take a little bit of time to put these things together, but it's not hard to put them together. This cable is great. It's some of the best sounding cable that I've heard. It's funny I'm saying best sounding cable. Let's say it's the least intrusive or has the least amount of degradation of a lot of the cables that I've heard. It's an excellent value, and for a DIY cable kit, you can't beat it. I know the Flat Earth guys, their heads are exploding out there right now. They're going to tell you, I'm trying to sell you snake oil, but trust me, cables make a difference, and those of you out there in the industry that have been there a long time, you know that the cables can make a difference, and I'm offering you a really high-end cable at a ridiculous price. I'm just selling you the cable by the foot, and I'm giving you the ends at also a really good price. So, thanks for watching. If you have questions about cables, post them in the comments section. If you just want to get in the flat earth debate of cables don't matter or they do matter, just move along. It's not worth the time. We're not here to debate. I'm here to help the people that are interested in taking things to another level. So that's it for this week. Be sure and hit the subscribe button again, and thanks for watching.